Once upon a time, in a world far away, there was a wicked demon who crafted a magical mirror. This was no ordinary mirror. It possessed a terrifying power. It distorted everything beautiful that was reflected in it. The most majestic landscapes looked like boiled spinach, and the kindest people looked hideous. But worst of all, the mirror shattered into billions of tiny fragments that flew across the world. If a shard flew into someone's eye, they would see everything as distorted and ugly. And if a shard pierced someone's heart, that heart would turn into a lump of ice, cold and unfeeling. In a small town where gabled roofs nearly touched one another lived two poor children. The boy's name was Kai, and the girl's name was Gerda. They were not brother and sister, but they loved each other as if they were. Their parents had cleverly placed large boxes of roses on the gutters connecting their attic windows. There, Kai and Gerda would sit together, admiring the blooming roses and singing hymns in the gentle sunlight. Those were the happiest of days. In summer, the roses smelled sweet. In winter, though the windows were sealed with ice, they would warm copper coins and press them against the glass to make perfect round peepholes watching the snow fall outside. One day, Kai's grandmother told them, "Those white snowflakes are like a swarm of white bees, and they too have a queen. She flies in the thickest part of the swarm and is larger than all the others. She is the Snow Queen." That night, looking through his peephole, Kai saw a large snowflake land and slowly transform into the shape of a woman. She was exquisitely beautiful, but cold, made entirely of glittering ice. Her eyes stared straight at Kai, and she beckoned to him. Frightened, he pulled back. But the true tragedy struck the following summer. As Kai and Gerda were looking at a picture book, Kai suddenly screamed, "Ouch! Something just struck my heart, and something flew into my eye." Gerda looked anxiously, but she saw nothing. In truth, a fragment of the devil's mirror had lodged in the poor boy's eye and heart. Immediately, Kai changed. He pushed Gerda away, calling the roses ugly because a worm had eaten the leaf, and he kicked the flower box. From a sweet boy, Kai became unruly, mocking everyone around him. He no longer liked fairy tales. He only cared for cold, hard calculations. His heart was turning to stone. Winter arrived, blanketing the world in white. Kai took his small sled to the town square to play. Suddenly, a magnificent white sleigh appeared, drawn by white horses. The driver wore a coat of white fur and a white cap. It was the Snow Queen. Kai, bold and curious, tied his little sled to the great sleigh. It took off with incredible speed, rushing out of the city gates. The snow fell so heavily that Kai panicked and tried to untie the rope, but he could not. The sleigh stopped. The Snow Queen stood up, tall and imposing. She pulled Kai inside her bear fur cloak. "Are you cold?" she asked, and kissed him on the forehead. That kiss was colder than ice. It chilled him to his very core, and for a moment Kai thought he might die. But immediately after, he felt cold no more. He forgot everything, his grandmother, his parents, and even little Gerda. He saw the Snow Queen as the only perfect being in the world. And so she flew him up into the black clouds, heading toward the North Pole. Back home, no one knew where Kai had gone. People thought he had drowned in the river. Gerda wept throughout the long winter. But when spring arrived, with its warm sunlight and birdsong, Gerda whispered, "I do not believe Kai is dead." She decided to go and find her best friend. Gerda went to the riverbank and offered her new red shoes, her most precious possession, to the river, asking for news of Kai. The river did not accept them, but instead it carried the small boat Gerda was in far away to a strange land. Here, Gerda met an old woman who knew magic and lived in a house with stained glass windows. The old woman desperately wanted a little daughter, so she combed Gerda's hair with a golden comb, causing her to forget her past and forget Kai. The old woman even used magic to hide all the rose bushes underground so Gerda wouldn't remember. Gerda lived happily in the magical flower garden for a long time, until one day she saw a painted rose on the old woman's hat. Her memory returned. She ran to the garden, her tears falling on the earth, causing the rose bushes to spring up and bloom. "Where is Kai? Do you know where Kai is?" Gerda asked the roses. The flowers replied that Kai was not under the earth, which meant he was not dead. Hope ignited, Gerda fled the magical garden, continuing her journey just as autumn began to drop its leaves. Her bare feet bled, but her heart was burning with determination. On her way, Gerda met a crow. The crow told her that in a nearby palace, a clever young man had just married the princess, and he matched Kai's description perfectly. Overjoyed, Gerda followed the crow into the magnificent palace. But when the lamp shone on the sleeping prince's face, Gerda burst into tears. It was not Kai. Moved by Gerda's devotion, the prince and princess gave her warm clothes, a splendid golden carriage, and attendants to continue her journey. But wealth brought danger. As they passed through a dark forest, robbers saw the golden carriage and attacked. They killed the attendants and dragged Gerda out. An old robber woman drew her knife to kill the girl, but her daughter, a little robber girl about Gerda's age, wild and strong, stopped her. "She shall play with me," the robber girl declared. "She shall give me her muff and her pretty dress and sleep in my bed." That night, Gerda lay awake beside the robber girl, surrounded by hundreds of pigeons and a tethered reindeer. Gerda told the story of Kai to the birds. The wood pigeons cooed, "Coo, coo, we have seen Kai. He sat in the Snow Queen's sleigh, flying toward Lapland, where there is always ice and snow." Bay the reindeer spoke up. "Yes, that is the land of eternal ice. The Snow Queen has her summer palace there." The next morning, the robber girl, though rough, showed she had a kind heart. She decided to let Gerda go. She gave Gerda a pair of fur gloves, lifted her onto Bay the reindeer's back, and said, "Run fast to Lapland. Take this girl to the Snow Queen's palace." Gerda cried with gratitude, waved goodbye to her strange new friend, and vanished into the snowstorm. Bay the reindeer carried Gerda across the wildest, coldest lands on earth to the hut of a wise Finland woman. The woman read words from a dried fish skin and said, "Kai is with the Snow Queen. He is content there because his heart has turned to ice. I cannot give Gerda any power greater than what she already possesses. Her power lies in her sweet, innocent heart. It is this love that has made nature and animals serve her. Let her go alone to the Snow Queen's garden." Bay left Gerda at the edge of the icy wasteland. The girl ran alone into the cutting cold. Her breath turned into thick fog. Snowflakes transformed into monstrous shapes to block her path. Gerda ran and prayed. Her breath formed into little angels, wielding spears to fight off the snow monsters, clearing a path for her to enter the palace. The Snow Queen's palace was vast, empty, and terrifyingly cold. The walls were made of driven snow, the windows of howling winds. In the middle of the great hall was a frozen lake cracked into 1,000 identical pieces. Kai sat there, blue with cold, almost black, but he felt nothing. He was busy arranging pieces of ice into words. It was the game of ice reason. The Snow Queen had promised, "If you can spell the word eternity, I will set you free and give you the whole world and a new pair of skates." But Kai could not spell it. He sat motionless, soulless as a statue. At that moment, Gerda entered. She recognized Kai instantly. She rushed to him, threw her arms around his neck and sobbed, "Kai, oh Kai, I have found you at last." But Kai sat still, stiff and cold. Overwhelmed with sorrow, Gerda wept louder. Her hot tears fell onto Kai's chest, soaking through his clothes, penetrating his chest and melting the lump of ice around his heart. The tears washed away the devil's mirror shard. Kai began to feel warmth. He looked at Gerda, and then he too burst into tears. He cried so hard that the mirror shard in his eye washed out with his tears. He recognized his dearest friend and cried out with joy, "Gerda, is it you, Gerda? Where have we been? Why is it so cold?" They hugged each other, laughing and crying in happiness. Their joy was so powerful that the pieces of ice around them danced in celebration, and when they finally lay down, exhausted, the ice pieces naturally arranged themselves into the word eternity, the very puzzle the Snow Queen had set. Kai was free, even by the Queen's own laws. Gentle and kind, Gerda kissed Kai's cold cheeks, and they bloomed with color. She kissed his eyes and his hands, and life returned to his body. Just then, the Snow Queen returned, but she could do nothing, for Kai's letter of freedom was written in ice on the floor. Holding hands, they left the castle of ice. Bay the reindeer was waiting to take them back. On their return journey, they visited the friends who had helped them. Spring seemed to follow in their footsteps. Plants sprouted, and the ice melted. Finally, they saw the bell towers of their hometown. They climbed the familiar attic stairs and walked into the old room. Everything was exactly as they had left it. The clock was still ticking, the hands still moving. But as they passed through the door, they noticed something strange. They had both become beautiful grown-ups. Kai and Gerda sat on their little stools, holding hands. The cold nightmare of the Snow Queen now seemed like a fleeting dream. The summer sunlight streamed in, warm and gentle. The roses in the gutters were in full bloom, fragrant as if celebrating their reunion. Kai's grandmother sat in the sunshine, reading aloud from the Bible. "Unless you become as little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." Kai and Gerda looked into each other's eyes, and they understood the meaning of those words. They were grown, yet their hearts remained as pure and trusting as children's. It was summer, a warm, blessed, and eternal summer. And so, the story of the Snow Queen comes to an end.